Happy spring! It's Marianne Cadorna, Sincerity Realty, DRE 013452774, broker, owner, realtor of Sincerity Realty. Sincerity Realty, that is me, the absence of deceit and hypocrisy, and where sincerity has a home. So, I look a little bit like a southern belle, but at least I'm not a ding dong. I'm sorry. So it is springtime. Kentucky Derby's coming, so I'm kind of getting into the spring fling here and getting in the mood. But spring is also a springboard time for people to start thinking about buying a home. You've already done your taxes. You've already gone through the hardship of preparing those documents. So hopefully you've taken my advice and prepared your documents to see if you can buy a home, because you do have deductible benefits, but not like it used to be. But it's still, you know, those are one of the benefits that maybe help you during tax time. But do not consider this to be tax advice. Contact your CPA, tax preparer, or tax attorney for specific advice for your specific needs. Okay, that said, what am I talking about today? Well, since August 17, 2024, real estate agents have to get into a buyer broker agreement with anybody who's interested in buying a home, but it has to be before you start looking on the MLS. Well, it's hard to keep all these things up, but what it's saying is that you can't initiate a relationship with a real estate agent as a representation for a buyer without a buyer broker agreement in place. And so, what? A buyer's agent commission? Oh my gosh, the buyers are run for the hills, head for the hills. Okay, so since 2002, that document has been scared off so many buyers, and they think, why do I have to pay commission? Why am I obligated to do this? No, I want you to really think of it as a commitment. It's actually a policy, an agency where it outlines the duties of the real estate agent. And more often than not, if you get a good real estate agent and they're good at negotiations and they're good at protecting your interests, that buyer broker agreement does not necessarily obligate you to a commission. It does say that if a commission is not provided, you have to pay a commission, or there's some kind. But you know what? The sellers are still accepting paying the commission. So basically, that can be written into the buyer broker agreement, and then your commission can be, if that doesn't work out, it's negotiable. The commission obligation is a primary concern, but while the cost is often a concern, a primary concern, please keep in mind that these terms are still negotiable with the seller through their paying the agents, the buyer's agent's commission. And also, if that's not the case, you can negotiate something with the real estate agent. And most likely they will, because otherwise, I mean, they won't get paid, but definitely it's all negotiable. And at the same time, um, it can be nullified if you decide you don't like to work with each other. And that happens, and it's probably best for both of you to sign, cancel, and say goodbye, au revoir, and get somebody that you think you can work with, because it's all about personality, trust, especially trust, honesty, and that's what I provide. Okay. And my goal is to save you money. Think about that. Identify concealed inspections. Oh my gosh. And that's going into my story. All right. And strategically, I negotiate on your behalf to get you the best terms. And what does that mean? The best terms, getting you the best negotiated price in terms that are agreeable to you, where there's a lot of ins and outs in that real estate buyer's agreement, purchase agreement. And I'm there to negotiate on your behalf. Number one, to protect your interests. Number two, to protect your good faith deposit. Knock on wood, because I've heard of agents losing good faith deposits for their clients, and that's, to me, it's just not acceptable. So, what is a buyer's agent? A buyer's agent is there to represent you in the purchase of a home. And what does that mean? That means they need to protect your interests throughout the home buying process, from looking for a home, to getting into contract, to opening escrow, to doing the tango, all those terms and negotiations that have been ad- initialed and approved with the contract, now it has to play out in the escrow period, and that can be a tango sometimes. So, as a good buyer's agent, you protect your clients throughout that whole process, because that's 50% of the home buying process is finding a home and getting into contract. The other half is closing escrow. And none of those things run smoothly, and all those things have risks that potentially could take you out of contract. So if you have a good agent to watch your back, and I do watch all my clients' back, and their heart too, and their money, and their interest. That's why they come back to me after 10 and 20 years, because I did right by them, protected them, and they were able to come back because they knew that with me, sincerity, the absence of deceit, hypocrisy, and pretense, that I would be doing the right thing for them. So your buyer's agent should be helping you to identify potential issues and protect you from situations in which information may be withheld, and saving you significant time and money, because if the only time you can negotiate an issue, especially with anything in regards to inspection, is in escrow, okay? Your interest should be protected during the escrow process, because if you close escrow and you have issues after the fact, major issues, there's nothing you can do unless you're willing to incur court costs and take it to court. But if you have somebody who's taking care of due diligence, protecting your interests, making sure that nothing is concealed, and and not all sellers, I'm telling you, conceal things, because the inspections are based on known facts. And sometimes the sellers don't know the facts because they've never had a home inspection. So we give them the benefit of the doubt. We give the agent the benefit of the doubt. But if there's a big doubt, then you can count on me to make sure that we take out that doubt. Okay? I help you to identify potential issues, saving you time, actually saving you significant time and money. But beyond oversight, I also work to lower a secure purchase price on terms that are both agreeable and beneficial to you. Does that matter? Can you do that if you represent yourself? No. Can you do that if the seller's agent represents you? Well, here's the crux. The primary responsibility of the listing agent is to represent the seller. So where does that put you? That puts you in second position. Although I've been in dual agencies, is what do they call them if you represent the buyer and the seller, but it takes a lot of trust. It really takes trust, honesty, transparency, and both sides know that you're doing the right thing for them. And actually, I've been in dual agencies a handful of times, and in one scenario, the buyer and the seller were there running the inspections together. They were there, and they said, Marianne, this is how all real estate transactions should be. Not opposing parties, but parties together working to achieve the common goal, which is to get the home sold, we get the home bought, and close escrow. So anyway, so now that I've made it clear, a buyer broker agreement is not a threat. It's not committing yourself to um, financial obligation or even loss before you start. It's basically spells out for your protection my duties as a buyer's agent and my due diligence, and how that is why I'm being brought on board as your agent to represent you in all your interests, your good faith deposit, the inspection period, your terms of the contract, saving you time and money and stress. That's the most important thing. I'm the first line of defense. Whatever happens, it hits me first. Then I have to process it. And relay it to you in the best way possible so you're not freaking out. But I am. So anyway, so here we go. This is called putting your money where my mouth is. Okay. So these are going to be two examples of why it's so important to have buyer representation, buyer broker representation. And that is me. I'm a broker, realtor, held to a higher standard, A+ rated, 5-star, the real estate professional. What does that mean? That just means that I do it right. I practice no harm and I do the very best for my clients. And so here we go. Let me take you to two little stories of why it would save you money, time, stress, and energy, and a lot of heartache. So let me get to my first story. So I've been in the business 24 years representing first-time buyers because I care about people, I care about their lives, I care about their money, and I care about getting them into the best home possible. My first-time buyers have gotten their dream home, so they never rebuy because I take them high. My buyers, I take them higher. You know, I try to show them properties I never imagined they could have had because of my ability to protect their interests and my ability to negotiate. So here's my 2 points in regards to the buyer broker agreement with Marianne Cadorna's representation. Now that you know that the buyer broker protects you, your interests, your money, you know, your future, because a good real estate transaction means that you will be happy, safe, move into the security of having a home, not having to move again and again and again. And also the rents are so high that, you know, San Francisco, average 2 bedroom now is $5,000. So what does that mean? First and last month's rent's $10,000. I mean, that money could be going towards part of a down payment on a 3% down payment first time home buyer program. Why are you going to rent and throw away $10,000? It has nothing to show for it. That's one thing you don't understand. When you rent, you will lament because you have nothing to show for. Every month you're obligated to pay that rent. With a mortgage, you're obligated to pay the mortgage every month so that you can own, not rent. When you rent, you're obligated to pay every month to own nothing. So where do you want to be? You want to be in a buyer broker agreement with Marianne. That's where you want to be. So initially, when you see the buyer broker agreement, it's rather intimidating. And you think, oh, I've got to pay a commission right at the start, you know? And I understand your concern with that because any contract is scary. However, if you consider the value of having a buyer's agent, that for me, I provide savings for my clients. I save them money, unnecessary stress, and I hope you will view our agreement as a commitment to protect your interests. And I'm going to tell you a little story why. Two little stories. The tale of two transactions, okay? Due diligence. My clients were buying this wonderful home. It was completely remodeled. They were really happy with it. Okay. Everything looked great. But because the home was built in the 60s and there was a big tree in front, I told them, I said, but I make this mandatory for all my clients, which is it only costs a couple $100s. It could have gone up, but you know, somewhere around there in the low threes to get a main sewer line inspection because the main sewer line is the ugly underbelly of the house. You know, you don't know, nobody ever goes there. You don't know what's going on. The main sewer line, and by the way, all the cities are putting that main sewer line correction repair on the cellars. So, so you might as well make sure that the under part of the house is going to support the house. And this is with sewage. Main sewer line takes care of the sewage. Okay. So when we looked around, there was a new clean out and there was a new cement around the sewer clean out. And so it didn't look like anything was wrong, but you know, they went ahead and got the sewer inspection as I highly recommended. We weren't going to move forward without it. And what was discovered? $12,000 worth of sewer line damage from the house 70 feet all the way to the middle of the street. In other words, the sewer was flushing under the road. And so I had to go to bat for my clients. It wasn't easy. They was escalated, trying to bring in the big guns and to intimidate me, but I'm sorry. If I have the truth on my side, I will hold up that shield and draw my sword to protect my clients because nobody should be buying a home with $12,000 main sewer line damage. Nobody. It becomes, now that it's exposed, it's a safety issue, it's a health issue. Okay. So after going back and forth and everything that I had to do, um, the agent and the seller finally acquiesced. Said, "What do you want, Marianne?" Not even, "Oh, how can I help?" "What do you want, Marianne?" "I want $12,000 seller's credit from my client so that they can have that repaired." So they got their $12,000 to repair the sewer. Okay. What does that mean? If they didn't get that, if we didn't have that inspection, they would have bought the home and there was $12,000 worth of main sewer line damage that somebody would have to address in the future. So again, everything has to be negotiated and dealt with before you close escrow, because once you close escrow, that wonderful date that says you're on record, after the fact means litigation. And if you do it right, you have good representation and everybody does their part the way they're supposed to, even if they don't want to, they're obligated to do the right thing and you make them do the right thing, then you walk away and you're happy with your home. So my clients are so happy with their home. I mean, they got the repair, and that was the only thing. Otherwise, the house was perfect. So, what does that tell you? By signing that buyer broker agreement protects the interest of the buyer. Wouldn't you want to be protected from that issue? Wouldn't you want to be protected from the potential of having that happen? But you have to have, I really care about my clients. I really care about what they're getting into. So I look at the 360 of my representation for them and how it's going to affect their lives. And I want them to have bases loaded and slide into home plate. And I'll slide into home plate for them as long as the escrow says safe, you're on record. So that's the first part about how due diligence protects you with a buyer broker agreement and the obligation of due diligence by the buyer's broker, which is me in this case. Wouldn't you want that? That 12,000, you're worried about a little commission that most likely the seller's going to pay, and if not, you can negotiate that down. But without that, they would have lost the home they really wanted, and somebody else would have ended up with that issue. So anyway, so that's the first tale of the transaction tales. The second tale, okay, I'm representing them buying a home. They came back to me after 20 years. I did write for my client 20 years ago, and she came back, because she said when I saved that deal for her 20 years ago, she goes, "God, Marianne, you're good." I said, "Well, thank you. And in that case, I had to save the deal from a lender that wanted to give up the process. And it's like, I said, no, this is not going to happen. So I took the reins of that transaction and I made it close. So that's where you're at. So 20 years later, fast forward, they came back to me. And so what happened was, it was 6 months, 108 homes. And finally, on the last leg of the last day of the last home we were going to see, I convinced them to see this home that I felt was going to be really good for them. However, it was $75,000 over their asking price. So what happened? I knew their top level pre-approval, and they finally acquiesced, and you know, they said, "Okay, let's go see the Marianne home once." I said, "No, let's go see the home Marianne wants for you. You deserve this home. So we went to see it, and everybody fell in love with it. So I said, "Let me make an offer." They said, "No, it's too high." I said, "Let me make an offer." They said, "No, it's above our asking price." I said, "I know it's above your asking price, but remember my saying, if you believe, you will achieve. If you doubt, you're already out." Well, when you believe, you open up the possibility, and that puts out that energy into the world because you're trying to do something good. So I negotiated, offered very, I offered an offer that probably a lot of agents would have, slapped me in the face and say goodbye, but So I was able to save them. The offer was countered, and the lowest that the person could go was not $75,000 off the asking price at 25. And then I was on my 9 key, and I don't typically calculate the commissions because I don't like to taint my intent. I don't like that money in the way. I don't want that, those dollar signs in front of my face. I want what my clients need in front of my face. So what happened was I said, okay, so I'm an independent broker. And I said, I'll tell you what. So that means I own my own company. So that means I tell you what, the commission is Marianne Sincerity's Realty's commission. Doesn't belong to a big brokerage that's going to take so much out that we'll have nothing left at the end of the day. So knowing how much had been taken out in the past and I could do a good deed, I told the listing agent, I'll tell you what, if your seller is willing to give this, because this is honestly their top amount, I will give $5,000 of my commission to the benefit of the seller. And it was the seller's last chance to get the money out. She was a widower, and she came back and she said yes. So my client saved $75,000 off the asking price. The seller got money for her expenses and moving. And at this point, my clients, you know, have $150,000 in equity just a couple years later. So the first tale I told you about due diligence, protecting your interests. The second tale is about negotiating to get you a dream home you never would have imagined had you not had somebody like me willing to get you the very best at whatever level you are at. And you won't know unless you try. So that's my point. So don't be scared about the buyer broker agreement, at least not with me. It lines out my due diligence. The the commission is still can be paid by the seller if they want. If they want the sale, they will most of them will. And if not, it can be negotiated. And if things don't turn out, you can nullify the agreement and move on. Get yourself somebody else, and no harm, no foul. And then also, most importantly, is I've saved my clients, protected their interests, $12,000 in main sewer line credit so they could repair it. Their good faith deposit would have been at risk at that point. Okay, if if that didn't get taken care of. Okay. Secondly, is also to negotiate the very best price and the very best terms. Can you do that? Could you do that working with the listing agent? I don't think so. So don't be scared about the buyer broker agreement. Okay, if you're really committed to buying a house, then you have to trust the agent, the broker. And if my story has hit home for you or made you feel like, I could really do business with Marianne. She really does the right thing for her clients, and I do because I'm thinking about their best interest, not my commission. I'm thinking about their future, not, counting dollars. I think about how this real estate transaction is going to benefit their life because I care about people, I care about their hard earned money, and I care about their real estate investment. That's why I have my own real estate brokerage called Sincerity Realty. I practice honesty, transparency, integrity, and you don't have to try and find somebody like that. I'm already putting myself out there. That's half the battle. The other half is, hey, I want to work with Marianne. So go to my sincerityrealty.com and check out my testimonials, and my clients say it best. Marianne is super friendly. She's easy to work with, gets the job done, or, we trust Marianne 110%. And we love her because she really cares for us and is with us every step of the way. So those testimonials aren't paid for. And I'm very grateful because I don't go out soliciting them. I haven't because I focus on doing my job. But I just want you to know that I welcome the opportunity to discuss your scenario, free consultation. and there's no risk to signing. Everything in life there is a contract, but because of the NAR, the lawsuit, and the August 2024 requirement that a buyer broker agreement must be signed now. Before it was voluntary, now it's mandatory. It doesn't hurt you if you, it does help you if you have the right agent working with you, willing to fight for you, willing to protect your interests, willing to negotiate the best terms, willing to work hard. You see, because working people work hard. And if I don't work hard for them, then their hard work didn't pay off as well as it should have. And I know how much homeownership means to a family, to a couple, to, significant others, to seniors, to investors. Even my investors get the very best homes going out the gate. So, with that said, again, I've been in the business 24 years. I've been on LinkedIn 18 years. My commitment is there. My representation is there. My reputation is there. And the most important thing is I'm there because I care. So if you want to care to work with me, just give me a call. 628-888-9078. Email me at sincerityrealty@gmail.com. And free consultation. Right now they're not mentioning it, but okay, we're going to hit the fan pretty soon. A lot of people aren't able to hold on, and more bankruptcies have been 12%. Bankruptcies are up 12% from last year. Short sales are up. Pre-foreclosures are up. Foreclosures are up. It's picking up again, and I don't think it's going to pull back now because of the economic crisis we're in. So you're going to need somebody to help you with the short sale. I'm there. I'm helping somebody right now. I mean, I care just about as much about my short sale people as I care about regular representation. It takes a little bit more diligence, and it's a little more emotional, a little muscular. But again, the banks, you sign a third party authorization, and I negotiate with your bank if I figure out what's going on, because it's hard doing it yourself. You're already suffering a lot of stress. So I save you time, stress, and money. And I'm sunny and funny. Sorry. Anyway, Marianne Cadorna here with my faith-based real estate company, Sincerity Realty. And I look forward to representing you. If you know anybody that's planning to buy or sell in the next 6 months, whether you're a buyer or a seller or an investor, whether you're in short sale, you've got a 90-day notice of default, whether you have a probate, whether it be a luxury, a first-time home buyer, I'm a full-service real estate brokerage, bringing my 24 years of tried and true and hard-earned experience to you. Thank you for your time. I look forward to helping you. Take care. God bless.